Welcome to Coffee Break with Rachel Vigil, taking a daily look at the biggest stories in Denver sports and interacting live with you, the Coffee Break fam. So sit back, relax, grab a cup of joe, and enjoy your coffee break. Here's your host, Rachel Vigil.
It's a Tuesday and James Palmer is on the show. We need to come up with some fun name for our Tuesday editions here of Coffee Break, James.
Yeah, we should. We're working. Everybody in the NFL has the day off. Well,
exactly.
No, not. I mean, the coaches are working. The players get the day off. But
yeah,
we're out here grinding on a Tuesday. Yeah,
I'm with you. And we grind on the Saturday and Sunday too. We need to come up with some fun name. We'll think of it over the upcoming weeks.
Yeah, we'll get it. We'll figure it out.
All right, Mr. Palmer. We talked about it. We didn't think the Broncos were going to walk away with a victory on Sunday. Obviously, they did. I think that Seattle's a lot better team than what people are giving them credit for as well. I think that they could possibly make it into a wild card spot, depending on what Geno Smith can look like all year. But unfortunately, Broncos fall. They're being blamed put everywhere. The offensive line, Sean Payton, Bo Nix, the wide receivers, the running backs. For you, where does the majority of the blame go to?
I'm going to say offensive execution as a whole. I think that's where the blame comes from, because I think the special teams played out of their minds. I thought defense outside of the third quarter, kind of surrendering the run in the third quarter. Outside of that, I think we saw an improved unit from what we saw a season ago. I was really encouraged by Jonathan Cooper and Baron Browning. It looks like they're ready to take a jump. I think we need good edge rush play out of the Denver Broncos starters there, and I think we saw it. And I think the defense is on its way in a little bit. And you got two new safeties there. You got a new starting corner, that's a young player. And I think as a group, as a whole, they played okay. The offensive operation as a whole didn't hold up their end of the bargain. I mean, when there's a muff punt that starts you at the 9, and an interception that starts you at the 20, it was harped on, Rachel, all training camp. Yeah. We need to be better in the red zone. And Sean knows how bad it was in the red zone a season ago. And I think you and I have talked about this. For them to be competitive this season and win games, probably maybe some that they're not expected to win, they need to be outstanding in the red zone. And they just were not. And that falls on play calling. That falls on execution, falls on the receivers, offensive line, Bo Nix. Listen, we all knew this was Bo Nix's NFL debut. We all know that quarterbacks as a whole struggle usually in their NFL debut. I look at CJ Stroud in his first 3 games compared to the rest of the season when he won Rookie of the Year. It's night and day what happened to him in those first couple of weeks. I'm not saying Bo Nix is CJ Stroud. I'm saying that we all expected some rough spots from a rookie quarterback in their first game, specifically against a defense like that. You mentioned the Seahawks. I think they are a playoff team. Geno Smith's performance will play a big part in that, but defensively, it's a great secondary. That's a good group up front. So I think the offensive execution as a whole is where the blame goes through, and then you can kind of pass it around in what exactly went wrong throughout that operation.
And it really feels like, Sean Payton's brought it up now post-game on Sunday. He brought it up in his Monday press conference. Jaleel McLaughlin and Javonte Williams, right? And it feels like there's a lot of blame kind of being put on Javonte Williams. He obviously had the slip, which sucked in the red zone as well. But you were like, oh, we really could have used that one because it should have been an easy touchdown. That slip hurts the Broncos. But it felt also like Javonte was in the doghouse a little bit, James. We didn't see a whole lot of him. Jaleel kind of got more of the starts, or more of the carries in the second half. And I'm just curious, was that, do you think, always a part of the game plan? Is just like, all right, see what Javonte can do early on? Or is it still just a 50-50 battle right now of who's going to be that running back number 1?
Yeah, I don't think it's a 50-50 battle. I was impressed, even though we got and I'm upset with this, small sample size from Javonte Williams. I think we saw a burst. I thought we saw a player moving in just those first couple carries far better than he was a season ago. You mentioned the slip, and I'd like to see him get another opportunity. How about some more carries? I think he had 8, I believe, for the game. I think it's essentially malpractice to say that Jaleel McLaughlin should be the back that you're running between the tackles, specifically between the guards. That is Javonte Williams. That is not Jaleel McLaughlin's strength. And I think it's very difficult throughout the course of a game, and I've talked to a number of play callers during my time covering the NFL about this, to stay disciplined to the run. It's just hard to do, especially when you are an offensive mind like, say, a Sean Payton or Andy Reid, one of the greatest coaches of all time, has been accused of this throughout his career in the years I've covered him, where he just doesn't run the football enough. And, why are you throwing, Andy? Was always a constant thing dating back to Philadelphia. It's hard to stay disciplined to the run because if it doesn't work, you kind of get away from it pretty quickly. When the passing game's not working, you look at, was that a drop? We could have went somewhere else with the football. This offensive line is built to run the football. That's the strength of a lot of these guys up front. And I think it's difficult for a rookie quarterback if you're not going to run the ball consistently, even if it's not there. Because what is the play action doing? I was having this conversation with my co-host Steve Smith the other day. What good is play action if everybody knows you're not going to run the ball? Yeah. It doesn't work. So you're just hurting your quarterback in a variety of ways if you don't stick to the run. It's hard to stick to the run. A lot of play callers say that. And that happens again in Seattle. And I think Sean would say, yeah, I mean, if you really, really asked him, do you wish you would have ran the ball a little bit more? He probably would say yes.
Yeah. I mean, right. We've talked and we've highlighted Javonte Williams all training camp, how he's faster, how he's moving down. That's why I was so surprised in the second half when really we just didn't see as much out of him. Mm-hmm. And I kept saying, I'm like, did I miss? Did he get hurt? Where is he?
I was doing the same thing.
We're all confused by it. And it was like, Sean, what's the game plan right here? All of a sudden, everything we've seen all throughout preseason, it feels like that's kind of just changed drastically. Even with Bo Nix, James, it was surprising because he just really locked into players. And it felt like throughout the entire preseason, we watched him, be able to have different movement, have different looks for different guys. We never once saw him really lock in on someone. Do you think it was just game day nerves? Do you think that was Sean being like, you know what, we're staying on script no matter what, Bo? What did you think led to that? Because there were a lot of times, we had the announcers going, oh no, as he's throwing the ball because they know exactly where he's going. And it just didn't seem like we ever saw that from Bo Nix in the preseason.
Yeah, this is a learning moment for Bo Nix, but a learning moment, more importantly, for NFL fans. I had this conversation with Josh Reynolds on Thursday in the locker room, and we were kind of laughing about it. How people look at the preseason and look at training camp and think that's the NFL. I mean, Josh was almost like he had more than a smile on his face. He was actually laughing, going no defense shows you anything in preseason, he said. He's like, it's so vanilla, it's almost funny. And this is a defense to where corners switch both sides, corners blitz, safeties move. I mean, guys are all over the place, and these are really, really talented corners. I think we saw Reek Woolen, obviously, how good of a corner he was 2 years ago, down year last year. He's back to playing at an unreal level. Witherspoon's fantastic. We know what Julian Love is like at the safety spot, just absolute menace. It's difficult. You're going to lock in because you're seeing things you've never seen before. I'm not going to speak for Bo Nix, but I'm going to tell you, he was seeing things he's never seen before on a football field. That's the NFL, and that's no slight to Bo. That's a guy that has played 61 college games, and that shows you how difficult the NFL is in terms of what defensive coordinators show you. We all should remember that it is called the preseason for a reason. There are teams that just don't play players. The Atlanta Falcons just don't play guys at all. They don't want to. They hate the preseason. There's teams that just work on specific things. They don't really care about winning and losing. We want to work on these scripted plays. These are things that we're not doing very well. Let's use them in a game setting. There's so many things teams are working on to get better during the preseason. You should not use it as an evaluation process of a quarterback's play. Now, what we did learn during preseason is it wasn't too big for Bo Nix. I don't think it was overall too big for him, but every quarterback's head spins when it comes to the NFL a little bit. What I liked is he never backed down. He kept fighting throughout the course of the game. But one trait we did see throughout preseason and training camp that we saw in this game again that I really haven't, and I've talked to people around the league about it, him falling backwards and throwing the football and throwing off of his back foot. That's not a positive thing. And that was happening again in this game. He got away with it throughout training camp in the preseason. But these things you do learn pretty quickly. And I would say Bo Nix is one of his best traits really is that he doesn't make the same mistake twice. So I'm excited to see the next couple of games. I'm not discouraged by the game. I'm excited to see where he grows after this performance.
For sure. And we know that Sean Payton is obviously going to work on him. And how can we can't forget his little like juke play also to get into the end zone. I was like, okay, Bo,
Use
like
the
look
legs.
at you. Yeah. And he's fun to watch though. That is one thing. You know, the offensive line I didn't think did a great job of protecting him. And we saw him still be able to make plays. It may have been 1-2 yards or anything like that, but he still was able to make plays. We didn't see a sack, James Palmer, and Broncos country knew that very, very well last year.
Yes. Big time. Big time. And I think that, we know the way Sean Payton thinks about sacks. The vast majority of the blame goes on the quarterback in Sean Payton's mind. That is something Bo Nix just doesn't do. He doesn't turn the ball over historically. That's something he did do. He could have had 4 picks in this game. He really could have. I think this is something that we're going to also monitor, though. I mean, is this a skill group of players that are going to consistently win one-on-one matchups or consistently get open? I think that was something that we all have our eye on heading into the season. I thought I saw some, chemistry brewing with him and Vele, him and, Josh Reynolds. I think he feels very comfortable throwing Josh the football. You get a comfort level when you can go to a certain receiver and the ball is either going to be incomplete or caught. That is a great feeling for a young quarterback. And I think he has that a little bit with Josh Reynolds. So we'll see where this kind of grows. But he didn't take sacks. The ball was out of his hands quick, but also the plays weren't all that long in terms of how their development was. There was a lot of the quick passing game. And a lot of what this offense focuses on is completing those quick short balls and breaking a tackle and having yards after the catch. We didn't really see that in this game. I mean, I will say this, Seattle's a pretty good tackling defense. Not every defense tackles great in the NFL, and you got to take advantage of some of those instances. But this offense needs yards after the catch if it's going to be a short passing game, and we didn't really see that in the opener either.
We also didn't really see speed. It feels like this team is lacking speed, which opens up the question of why aren't we seeing more of Marvin Mims? Sean Payton has talked about that time and time again last season in the offseason, saying we didn't utilize him enough. Where was he in game 1?
No. Well, I think I don't want to speak for the decision-making they made on the personnel because they played almost everybody. But it wasn't the greatest of training camps for Marvin Mims. I mean, if you were there every day, it was a frustrating training camp, you could probably say, for Marvin, just by observing the way practices went. You got to earn your snaps and you got to earn your way onto the field. I know that they need explosive plays, but you probably also need guys that, are going to be players that Bo knows he can count on. And I don't know if Marvin's one of those guys right now in the eyes of the coaching staff. But yeah, they need speed. I thought they'd get Greg Dulcich also involved a little bit earlier in the game, and that didn't really happen either. It's a difficult defense to go against. It's week 1 with a lot of new. We'll see how it goes against even better defense in week 2 at home against the Steelers. Whew.
Oh, I know. It's all about making Bo Nix comfortable, and hopefully we see a little bit more of that for sure. Let's talk Steelers, though. I was not expecting this defense to come out. Trust me, I know they've got some playmakers there in Pittsburgh, but the way they played against the Falcons was unreal. TJ Watt, just a freaking stud, man. Like, you have to just compliment him pretty much every single play, it feels like. James, how difficult is this next game for the Broncos? Even though it is at home, there's a positive there. It is at home.
Yeah, I mean, that is a positive, but this, I mean, the Steelers have had great defenses for an eternity, and they always put a great one out there. And this one has gotten off to a really, really great start. And I was talking to somebody in the league last night, and I was like, we were having this conversation, and I never thought I'd say this because I was a beat reporter in Houston, and I covered JJ Watt on a regular basis, and he's like one of the top 3 greatest players I've ever covered on a daily basis. There is a chance TJ could end up being better than his brother, which is an astounding thing to say, but he is playing out of his mind. If you watch that whole game, and I watched the entire game because I have high hopes for that Atlanta offense. I thought they'd actually, with the quarterback, finally start putting things together with all the skill they have, and they brought back pretty much their entire offensive line. If he wasn't called for a neutral zone infraction, which I don't agree with, that's a strip sack for TJ Watt. He had another strip sack that was also called back due to a penalty. He should have finished the game with like 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. He was everywhere, and he doesn't rush the left tackle. Usually he rushes on the right side against Mike McGlinchey. And I bring that up because we'll see what Garrett Bowles' status is with him and the ankle injury. But it doesn't really matter where or who he's rushing against. He's going to get into the backfield. the best way to alleviate his pressure is get rid of the football quickly. I mean, it's the most frustrating thing for star pass rushers is if you get rid of the football extremely quickly. But I mean, they have players at all three levels. Joey Porter Jr. is turning out to be a really, really, really good corner. They have a great safety. They have good linebackers. I mean, they have players everywhere. Interior pass rush. I mean, this is a complete defense that maybe doesn't mix it up as much as say Mike McDonald did in week 1. But probably a great challenge.
I know. I'm a little worried about it.
I know. Yeah, it's true.
I'm like, oh, it's gonna be. I had the Steelers as the Broncos' first win of the season, and now I'm not feeling so good about that. Although there is news that it looks like Justin Fields is going to be the starter for the Steelers in week 2. Excuse me. I think Broncos country overall, I don't want to speak entirely for them, but I feel like a lot of people are disappointed, right? Because it's always been Russell Wilson versus Sean Payton. And it's like, who's going to win the battle? And unfortunately, it just doesn't seem like we're going to be seeing that at all. Have you heard anything else on Russ's status for this upcoming week? And are you assuming it's going to be Justin Fields as well?
I think it's going to be Justin Fields. Mike Tomlin said they're preparing for Justin Fields to be the starter in Denver. They're going to monitor Russell Wilson's calf injury throughout the week. He is in a better spot, to my understanding, right now than it was over the weekend. It was kind of a phantom pregame warm-up. When you're working out pregame, Rachel, and there is not a single medical staff member near you or coach near you, you're not truly testing it pregame. When you're throwing just to a equipment staffer, the decision was already made. He wasn't going to be playing in that game. I would think, even though Russell Wilson won the starting job in Pittsburgh, if you would ask Sean Payton and you hooked him up to a polygraph and you said, Sean, who would you rather face, Justin Fields or Russell Wilson? He'd probably say Russell Wilson, and he'd be telling the truth. I think Justin Fields is a harder quarterback to go against for the Denver Broncos than Russell Wilson. They have some of the same flaws, but the added element that Justin Fields brings is he is an elite ball carrier with the football in his hand. And I mean an elite ball carrier. It is unbelievable what he can do in the open field. And that's an added element that Arthur Smith is going to use. And he's had mobile quarterbacks in the past. He knows how to utilize them. Watching that game, I don't think Justin played terribly. I think it was a conservative game plan. He didn't turn the ball over. He didn't throw a pick. He didn't throw a touchdown. But they were really short and conservative early. He hit a couple of deep shots later in the game. But as a whole, they played the way we expect Steelers offenses to play. Run the football. And they have two good backs to go along with them. And they're going to make you stop the run. And Justin Fields adds an element that I don't think Russell Wilson has in his game anymore. And I'm not alone in that. Talking to enough people around the league, they say the magic in the fourth quarter might be the thing that has faded. And that's one of the things that made Russ so special. And it's not speaking out of turn. It's like he's gotten older. It's harder. It's more difficult. So I predict them are going to face Justin Fields. And I would say, honestly, that I believe the Broncos would probably prefer to face Russell Wilson.
I'm totally with you. I even before the season started, I said, I think by week 4 or week 5, it's going to turn over to Justin Fields. He's just younger. He's more dynamic. And I said yesterday on Coffee Break with James Merlett, I literally was like, Justin Fields did not have a bad game. Is it the most dynamic offense we've seen? Is it a Patrick Mahomes?
No, I think James said he played terrible or something, right?
Yeah, he did. And I'm like, he really did not play a bad game. Was it boring? Maybe a little bit, but
that's incorrect. But I will say the thing that stands out to me the most is when you ask people in Pittsburgh, and there are people in the building that do believe that Justin Fields gives them a better chance to win. And you ask around, it was kind of like, well, Russell Wilson got the job and was named the starter to start the season because he was the vet. And because he obviously has more pelts on the wall and a lot more success in his NFL career than Justin Fields, just a lot more, all his time in Seattle and everything. And Justin didn't go and run away with it while Russell Wilson was out. To me, that's not Russell Wilson winning the job. That's almost winning the job or being named the starter by default. So it's not like he clearly won the job over Justin Fields. It was kind of just like, I guess we go with Russell Wilson. That's kind of the vibe I get talking to people there. So it was a lot closer probably in their minds of we could probably go with either one. And I think the added elements that the Fields brings are there. If Arthur can get him playing in a manner in which he protects the football, has easy reads, rolls him outside of the pocket, gives him the option to run or have like maybe a read, like Arthur can set him up to succeed. And this was week 1 in this offense for him. So I disagree with James saying that he played terrible. I think we look at anybody playing in a new offense, and Justin has had his struggles in this league. I think he played fine would be probably a more accurate assessment.
That's what I'm saying. Okay. I was like, he did not play a bad game. Yeah. Was it the most crazy offense run? No, but we're also not going to see that out of the Denver Broncos this year. It's going to be a lot of screenplays. It's going to be a lot of just pass and throw for 3 to 5 yards. Like, it's going to be a very basic offense. But at the end of the day, if you score touchdowns and you win like the Steelers did, then you got to give them a pat on the back, man.
Yeah. I think he was only sacked twice, and sacks are a big issue for Justin in his career. They've been a big issue for Russ as well. And I think if he learns to make sure that they don't play behind the sticks and they consistently, the way this offense is built, it's never longer than like 2nd and 8, and you continue to play, don't hurt yourself offensively, which is a thing that happened with Russell Wilson in this Broncos offense a season ago, where, you consistently hurt yourself going backwards. Justin will keep them in a decent spot with Arthur Smith running the show. So I think it's a greater challenge to face Justin Fields, honestly, right now in their careers, than a Russell Wilson, who probably, if he did play in this game, wouldn't be 100% either. So in terms of his mobility. So yeah, you would probably want Russ to play in this game if you were the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I think even as Broncos country, I'll speak for them on this. And I'm like,
I think they all wanted Russ.
What could have been?
Yeah.
What could have been? You know who I'm looking? I'm looking for Jonathan Cooper, though. You mentioned the sacks. I want to see Jonathan Cooper. I've talked about him being the dog mentality. I like what I've seen out of him. I like how we've seen him progress. I'd like to see him go out there and get a few sacks on Justin.
A couple of college teammates, a couple of Buckeyes going after each other, Justin Fields and Jonathan Cooper.
Let's do it. All right, James Palmer. Appreciate you as always. I think me, you, and James Marilat, we all need to have like a little chitty chat on one of these episodes. I think it would be
let's do that.
A James matchup. How great would that be?
Yeah, James versus James. James on James crime, maybe. Who knows?
I'll just be here. I'll have like some points. We'll just do points and see who wins on that.
Like a PTI thing. Got it.
Love it. Perfect. James Palmer, appreciate you as always. To everybody in the comments for hanging out with us. Thank you guys so much. We'll be back tomorrow, 12 p.m. Bye, everybody.